We create the world we want to see through our actions. We all have agency. It's just choice. What a time to be alive and watch this play out and be part of it.
How do you define truth?
Something I'm always searching for. Thinking in first principles and constantly going down to the sand. But a truth today, or something that I observe as a truth today, sometimes then I realize a year from now, 2 years from now, whenever, that what I thought was true at one point isn't true. And so it's an expanding understanding of what is true, a learning process. So first principles, I can get there, but let's use physics, standard physics or quantum physics right now. And it is true in the observable universe that anything 10 to the minus 28 or bigger operates under Einstein's laws of physics. And it's also true that anything under that 10 to the 28 minus 28 power operates in quantum physics. So those are both true, but they don't unite. And then I ask myself a question from that are both true. I ask myself, if the universe is fundamentally quantum, which builds this observable universe, then we must be too, because we're part of the universe. And so through first principles, I go deeper and deeper and try to get to those, and constantly challenging previously held beliefs or assumptions about something through that process.
On the last podcast we had together, you said to me exactly what you just said. If the universe is quantum, then we are quantum too. What does that mean for you?
Simply, we're all one. We're that we are completely all connected, and we are all one. And you can and in meditation, or I specifically in meditation, but a lot of times even outside of meditation, I can feel that. I can see it. Almost the fabric of that, and I see that in myself. I see that in every person I touch or meet. This is the same thing. You have. Here's an analogy or a different way of looking at it. Let's imagine you are a person and you're that light, right? And you see the light around you, but the darkness in the room you don't see. You don't see anything outside of that light. And then you connect to another person and you see more, and you see more, and you see more. And that's that deepening of this understanding, and the deepening of the understanding that we are all connected. Now, if your ego is it's all about me, and just this is hard to do because we're the heroes of our own journey. We're the primary actor in our story, and so 99% of our mind, which creates 99% of the world we see, is all, how do I matter? Well, we very rarely think about what is going on in somebody else's brain. Their 99% is, how do they matter? And what is we're all trying to be seen. We're all trying to be loved, love and belonging, which we talked about last time. And so that connection to that is, everybody's trying to be seen in their own life. And a lot of times that narrows somebody's view, that they don't see what we're talking about because they want to be so seen. They're pushing away that deeper understanding. And so it's just part of the fabric of every single thing we, as far as we know, at least today, there's no other beings in. I'm not going to argue that part just because of but there's no other beings that are capable of understanding laws that govern our universe, that we made up and tested within our own framework of our own brain.
I was really trying to understand what truth was for me. My perception, my understanding of truth evolves over time because of my childhood programming, my societal programming, media, education, government. All these things influence how we view truth, and that's subjective. But on the other hand, there's universal laws, universal truths. These are things that like are objective. They're kind of scientific. They don't change. And I think that's why I've connected so deeply with your message. You're finding universal laws. You're finding universal truths.
Fish don't know about Pluto, about quantum physics. So these are constructs that we came up with to be able to understand our world better, and we're constantly trying to understand our world better, and the people within it are the people that are creating those constructs.
This is fascinating. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. Okay, you just said fish don't know about quantum physics, but like we're kind of the fish too, in a way. Like we don't know what's going on when it comes to how is it true. Two completely different truths can be true at the same time when they're like opposite, you know? What I'm thinking is in this 3D reality here, like in this physical, tangible 3D reality, in order for something to exist, it has to have height, weight, depth, and then it has to have a past, present, future. Like that's the 3D that we live in. Then there's like a 5D. This is a different level of consciousness. So in 3D consciousness, we're like ego consciousness. It's very much like inward focused, like you were just explaining. And we're like 99% of the time, like we're the ones that matter. But in 5D consciousness, that's where we see the world. We're all one. We're all interconnected. And it's a higher level of consciousness. And it's not like it's almost a different space-time reality. While the world still looks the same, we have access to so much more around us. I didn't think I was going to talk about this right away or on here right now, but like I feel like this is all connected. And I feel like right now what's happening is that we're bringing in more of that higher 5D consciousness where we can access more in this physical realm that we can't see in the space around us. Like there's stuff happening here that's vibrating at a rate that we can't access because we're not vibrationally matching it. So I don't know what my question is because I wasn't planning on talking about this, but
I completely agree. When I say the light that you're reinforcing, that's reinforcing your reality, that's what I'm talking about. That if you instead of observing how easy everything is, how abundant everything is when you're connected at a higher level, how many different things you see just because of a perception change, and how it could be a 0 to 1 moment in your life. You've experienced some of that recently,
yeah.
right? And all of a sudden, everything around you that you thought was hard, it becomes easy, and you start to see more abundance, and as you start to see that, you look for other people that are tuned into that same frequency, and on that path. I had the conversation. I'm mentoring a CEO of a company who was recently stuck, and the company's doing okay, but he personally, it took a big bad bet, going through bankruptcy and everything else, and or wanted to. And I asked him kind of this process, and I said, why did you just choose bankruptcy right away instead of walking through all of the different possibilities of everything you have, and what does this look like? What is your and why does this feel so hard right now based on this? And he came and after kind of that mentoring session, he said to me, he said, it's so crazy. If anybody in my own business came to me with this inside the business, this is why the business is successful. So in my own life, I don't apply the same rules. I got stuck in the scarcity mindset, and I didn't see that there's just all of this different opportunity to recreate that in a totally different outcome. But exactly what you're just saying, we get caught into a trap, and we tell ourselves a story that this is the way it has to be from our own perceptions.
Speaking of our perceptions and things, and how much our worldview can change once we see a new truth, or once we understand things differently, or we see a new perspective. I think we have generally just an unconventional perspective on reality, and certainly a lot of people listening to who are seeking truth. And sometimes when we're with people who aren't doing that same process, or maybe haven't gone through spiritual awakening, or who aren't in Bitcoin, or just living a more conventional life, look, I've recently felt really delusional with a couple of friends. I was just like, have I lost my mind? Because I see the world totally different now, and they're just doing their thing, and they're like, Daniella, what are you even talking about? And I'm like, okay, how do you keep yourself in check in all these ideas and finding truth?
Probably similar to you. Did I jump the shark on that idea or not? Is that true or not? Is it and allowing your friends to have the space that, because their movie is their movie, it is true for them, right? Just like my movie is true for me, and understanding that I once saw the world completely different, and was also at one time stuck in some. It allows me to kind of allow the space for somebody else to just be them. Everything about them is perfect the way it is, if that's what they want. It's only where I find not the challenge, but the incongruence is where somebody's talking about the world that they want without action, and reinforcing that the world that they see, and they don't know that they're the cause of it all. They're everything. They're the center of it all. And so so when then I'll ask those questions, I'll probe them, but if they want to stay there, we can still be friends, right? Because it's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for first principles thinking?
Asking why. The Toyota asking why 5 times is typically takes you deep enough, and on any subject. If you do it on money, I know you're doing some of this in your book too, on some of the which I love, forcing that question deeper, and so, but pick a subject, ask 5 whys, and deeply explore the 5 whys, the real reason behind the reason, and you'll typically get to something, first principles or close to it.
So when we get as far as we can, is it either first principles or a lack, or the limits of our knowledge?
It's both. Sometimes it's the limits of our knowledge. So that let's use the quantum physics example standards. The limits of our knowledge are there right now, right? And so there's a whole bunch of ideas to unite these two worlds, and many worlds theory is one of those ideas. It doesn't resonate with me, and I don't think it's I think it's right. I think but it would, I understand how, kind of from quantum physics, that it would satisfy some people to say both happened, right? Both, instead of one thing collapsed and another thing happened, and so you create many worlds of different Daniellas, right, with billions of different combinations of different things, and that would satisfy some people. I don't think that that's really what happens. I think the Copenhagen interpretation is more correct, where you create the reality for you, and the other one doesn't exist. And I used the example last time we were talking, in a room full of 100 people, you and I are talking, and somebody whispers Daniella across the room, and all of a sudden you've tuned out of our conversation, and you can hear that. But that must mean you could hear all of the conversations all of the time. And that also, by deductive reasoning to that, it must mean that any one of those conversations could have changed your life forever. But they're invisible to you because of your focus and what you believe in, and what and the focus on our conversation at the time. And so all of the other realities collapse, I think. And the one that you choose permeates, and it builds other things on top of it, and then you choose again, and you choose again, and you choose it all through your thoughts, attention, actions on those thoughts. I mean, that's how the world's created.
This is really fascinating. You just said, like, it's our focus on that reality. It was the focus on that conversation, and then my decision to focus on someone whispering my name. That's what created my world. So our attention and our energy and our focus is the most important thing that we have, in a sense, because that's what helps us create the world that we're going to experience, where we put our time. I'm just bringing it back to the fiat system. This system is designed to suck our energy. Like, literally, it's not designed to take our time. It's designed through money. And I just feel like it's such a massive darkness. It almost feels like, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but when we're around narcissists, like, they can't generate their own energy, so they have to take it from other people. And so I just see the fiat system kind of embodied in that sense. It's like, it's very narcissistic, and it's just taking the energy away. And we have so much power in refocusing where we put our light, where we put our energy, in creating the world that we want to see. I really align with the message that you've been bringing out in that sense.
And we are all part of it. So we could go forever on this specific part of the topic, because if we know for sure that in the past, the same world, same experience, same quantum physics, same standard physics, same ability to build engines and printing press and electrical generation and all of the things were always there. It was our insights connecting the dots that brought them, and those insights had to come from people. And to be able to get deeper and deeper, to be able to provide us how we've sculptured this world and the operation of this world. Now, if that whole system is based on extraction from some people, so some people win, which we know the Fiat experiment is, right? That's a fundamental truth. It has to extract from some people because the natural state of the free market is deflation, and everything we create competes with what was there before, so it has to create more value. So that has to be deflation. So anytime you're in a system of extraction, then you're also in a system that can't actually for very long term be fundamentally stable, because it has to extract, and then you go to war for that system to try to reset it. And there, in other words, in game theory, in that everybody's playing prisoner's dilemma, including the richest, because there is no place to hide. And what some of those people, their soul caught up in a system of extraction, they're making a trade-off that they think they're winning while they're losing, and other people are looking at those people thinking they're winning, when if you actually really realized what it looks like for that person, it's not winning. It's a really dark experience for a lot of those people that are in that, because the whole game is an extractive process, and it has to be. Throughout 5,000 years of human history, it had to look like that. Now, you could argue that maybe we needed that to be able to get to here. Maybe we needed that process to be able to find the raw materials, the slave labor, all of the things I'm not sure if that's true or not, but as evidenced by the world, that's what happened to get to here. But we don't have to make that choice anymore. And we are all part of making that choice. So if we give our energy to that system, how could we complain about the negative byproducts of that system to us? Who do we have to blame? And once you start to see what Bitcoin really is, and how it's an energy system, it's a protocol bounded by energy that forces the abundance to 8 billion people. and all of the idea generation on top of that, how could you stay in the other game if you knew? Now, I'm not saying everybody knows, it's so early, most people don't know, but how could you stay in the game of extraction if you knew?
If there's so much to unpack there, I don't even know where to start. But I love how you say 8 billion people serving 8 billion people. And then when you add on top of that the exponential progress of technology, like, it's such a profound statement. When we really take the time to think about what that entails, it's absolutely monumental.
And tied into that, it's so much bigger even to me. It just because today you truly only have 300 to 500 million people that ideas matter, and it's probably way smaller than that. That ideas matter in creating more value for other people. Most people in their existing system, because it's an extractive system, are slaves to that system. So that they can't think. They're so paralyzed by fear, feeding their family, or what causes the next thing, hate, because of that system, that they'll do anything to burn this down. Right there, and they're being manipulated. All of these things manipulate and extract more, and they think they're winning in the system, and you can feel it breaking all around the world. But now, take those 7.5 billion extra souls, those minds, into a system of truth, hope, abundance, and now connect it. They make a difference. They can make a difference to every other person in a free market condition where their ideas matter. How many more ideas, how many more shots on net do we have where prices fall even faster? If you live in kind of the Western world today, and you're extracting, no matter what you do inside that, you're extracting from 7.5 billion people. Now, on that level, there's a whole bunch of people in the Western world that are getting extracted from the very top, the 100, 1,000 people at the very top, and those people are getting angry too. But if you forget the 1,000 people at the top, or 100,000 or whatever, and you look at the group here, they don't know that they're extracting from the people in Africa.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's probably, and I'll put me in that camp, right? Or what was at one point in that. For me, one of my hardest things in coming understand Bitcoin, actually where I was born, and the family I was raised in. Because of where I was born, I had a way better chance to create economic wealth for my family and everyone else. And if I was born somewhere else, I wouldn't have had that chance. So I took for granted that what that looked like, and that arises because I was living in a system of extraction from those countries that imposed that pain on those other people. And so that was a really hard thing for me to understand, because I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe that it was all me. I created it all. I'd learned, I tried, I worked hard. I was constantly learning. I wanted to be, and that's not some truth in there, but my odds of success were so much higher than somebody, let's say, in Ghana.
I really empathize with what you're talking about, because you're the one who actually made me see that. When you were talking about it on a podcast, you were explaining what you just said. And that really touched me. I was like, okay, I'm struggling with inflation, but how about someone in a country where they have 100% inflation, regularly, and they're constantly being debased, and they have no choice, or they have no women's rights, or all this other stuff. And then I was starting to think, oh my gosh, my passport privileges. Like, I'm lucky I was born in Canada and that I have a European passport. Like, these are things that some people don't have. They can't travel freely. Like, I don't know, it all just started to hit me all at the same time. And then yeah, it was tough to process that. And I'm like, I can't do anything about that right now. What I can do is really focus on building Bitcoin, because that's what's going to help you go into a system where this is irrelevant. Like, I see the world, I know this is very optimistic, but eventually I see this taking us to a place where there are no gatekeepers.
Yeah, that is what happens. This is, as long as Bitcoin stays decentralized and secure, that's inevitable. Because if you just play it, and now from there, and I'll tie this back to people that are giving their energy to the system that's extracting their energy and their time, and they're so confused by it. Ask yourself how it is that whatever pieces of paper you're measuring in, how is it you could create wealth by creating an infinite number of pieces of paper? Real wealth. Because all that does is makes everything more expensive by the unit of printing of money. So that's the system that most people's labor is within, their businesses within, their savings are within, and they think that within that system, if I buy a house, if I buy this, I'll be safe from that system. And all of those actions within that system are actually making the system stronger over them. They're giving their life energy to a system that's doing that. So if those things are true, right, and Bitcoin doesn't care about how many pieces of paper you can print on it, and I've asked this on many podcasts, but do the same for people who can't grok that yet, can't really understand that. Just today or any day you listen to this podcast, go and look at Bitcoin price versus various different currencies, and you'll see. And instead of saying currency, say pieces of paper I measure the world in, and you'll see all the different relative values of Bitcoin price around the world. And then you'll look at those people in those other countries and go, why don't they see it? Then ask yourself, why don't you see it? And if that's true, if what I just described is true, then wouldn't you want to move some of your time or all of your time and energy into the system that's creating abundance, and take it away from the system that's feeding on your energy?
One of the profound things you said in their last talk was money shouldn't go up in value. Money should measure everything else. And when I first heard it, I was like, what? And then I started thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so logical. Like money is supposed to measure value. Why would it keep just increasing? It's like, we know the clock is 24 hours. It's just a common thing that we've decided on. It's become this way of communicating. But if the government decided like tomorrow, all of a sudden it's going to be like 28 hours, it's going to be so confusing for everybody to know what time it is, what time do we meet at, you know what I mean? It's like a foundational way of communicating. That's exactly what's happening in money. They're constantly increasing the numbers without us knowing. And then we're all of a sudden like, why is everything more expensive? Well, it's because monetary inflation is crazy.
And who gets to do that? Who gets to, if you go really how bad that is? Why? Like so some people will believe inflation is necessary for productive economy. And if you want to do first principles, why? And get their belief behind, because it's just a belief. And then get, why do they believe that inflation? And they'll say something like, well, there's not enough money to go around if you don't. And why? And you'll get to a core belief that they won't be able to solve, because it's just a belief that it ends in somebody has to control money. It ends up in a control system, and it has to be a control system. And then on top of that, ask who wins and who loses by that manipulation of money. And they will hopefully see in themselves that there is no winner in the manipulation of money in the long term. It pulls us all apart because it's based on a system of extraction.
Okay, that brings us back to the beginning of our talk, because what you just said is like, okay, in a true free market, prices fall to the marginal cost of production. If that's not happening, and that's a very profound statement, I'd invite anyone to really take their time to like understand it. It took me 4 years, so I understand it takes time to like really, really understand the depth of that. But if that's a universal truth, and we're not living by that truth, because prices aren't falling right now, everything's constantly going up in price. That's what we observe in the real world, right? So if that's what's happening, then we're not living by a universal truth or a universal principle. We're living by someone's distortion. I say someone, we are all they. There's no one to blame. This is a system problem. But that means that we're not living by a universal truth right now in the fiat reality. We're living by a perception or a distorted universal truths through money. Like money manipulation has enabled the system that we're in. And so in order to really get out of that system, we need to choose a system that is outside of that system, literally. And that's really Bitcoin.
And that's and that was the paradox for me in finding Bitcoin, and then put pressure testing Bitcoin in the same version, in the same vein. Could this actually be a resolve to this dilemma the world faces? This we've always lived in this extractive economy, and for windows of time, it looked less extractive for certain regions of the world. In fact, the U.S. Was created out of we're breaking away and having individual rights and freedoms, and because the individual rights and freedoms, the free market is more powerful. It became the U.S. that we know today, like a superpower, because the free market is more powerful, and it became the reserve currency of the world, and it became all of the smartest people that were locked out of the system in Europe moved their families to create a new world, a new life for their families, and essentially more shots on net, more free market ideas moves faster than the closed market of a couple people deciding, which created for a time, and the Constitution was a big part of that, guaranteeing people's rights to act as free men, and then it got captured, and it got captured through money, through the Federal Reserve, and then a creeping state that used the exact same system that we saw before in Britain. Sun never sets on the British Empire, right? Same system before. That's now reaching end of days on that. And you then have El Salvador moving to Bitcoin, and you have other countries thinking about, okay, how do we play this game again, or how do we war game, destroy people, and convince our societies to go to war, and then reset the currency again and start the whole thing over again. And some people are thinking, okay, we could do this on gold again. And cutting through all of that nonsense is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, there's never been something like it before. So it would be hard to imagine what that meant for most people in the world. They're using these frameworks, these ideas, to be able to understand what Bitcoin is. So for me, in trying to disprove what I just said and trying to kill Bitcoin from every possible angle, and by the way, there's still, we could talk about some of them right now. And that most people wouldn't understand that they were feeding the beast that was taking everything from them, which would give more attack vectors against Bitcoin. I was really trying to, and still do, try to disprove this hypothesis through Bitcoin and say, where could Bitcoin fail from that? And I've come to the conclusion it's very, very unlikely to fail. By fail, I mean get centralized. But there are still risks, and one of the risks is if people just see it as a store of value, it will be captured. And in other words, if Bitcoin isn't a medium of exchange, it will not be a good store of value. So we're investing through ego death in companies that are creating peer-to-peer and ensuring that Bitcoin is also able to be used as a medium of exchange, and it's expanding really fast there. But I'd say in the Western world, most people think of it just as a store of value, if they think of it as a store of value at all. And it's also becoming a medium of exchange.
I don't know if I heard this somewhere. I can't remember, but if Bitcoin fails, it's because we failed Bitcoin. Like, we are Bitcoin, in a sense that running a node, using it as a medium of exchange. Like, this is what forwards the Bitcoin movement and helps bring more people in and makes it useful and all of that. So I think every individual has a really important role to play in being part of the success of the protocol.
Yeah, imagine, so like tangibly, think about the audience of people in Bitcoin that aren't in Bitcoin yet for fear of the state stopping Bitcoin. They don't realize that the state has to run financial repression and destroy their life savings. And if they have a whole bunch of houses, those houses need to be taxed completely differently in the future, or taken back through either force or regulation to be able to keep that state control. So they're arguing about the thing they're scared about, while giving this more strength to the state to be able to take everything they have. It's nuts to me. The like that when you realize that effectively what they're saying by arguing that is saying, I don't have agency. I have no agency. And what you and I are saying, and what we're saying, is we create the world we want to see through our actions. We all have agency. It's just choice. Now, if you don't believe you have agency and you want to give that choice away to somebody else, then unfortunately the repercussions of your decision are not going to look good for you.
Okay, how are you going to deal with digital IDs, social credit scores, and CBDCs? Because to me, that feels like something that it's during COVID, I gave into, honestly, big regret, massive regret. And I'm sorry. I gave into the narratives, but I wasn't in a good place at the time. Like it was just, anyway. And I feel like they dangled, you can't travel, and that's massively important to me. So I was just curious if that happened.
But you learned a lesson for next time.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
And so did countless people. That trick won't be able to be used again, because you'll have a rebellion in places. And look around the world. That people are taking control. They don't. Many people don't know the reason they're marching. But if you look around the world, and you can see all of those people moving onto Bitcoin, the existing system would be over really fast. You don't have to march against it or anything else. You just take the energy from it and move to Bitcoin, where it can't be touched. But on top of that system, you now have Nostr, a new protocol, or that your social network is cryptography. And it can't be stopped. It's very similar to, because there is no node, you could look at some of these things like almost like a DDoS attack on the state. So many people doing it that it's impossible to stop, because the cost of going after honest actors, using freedom of speech to build the cost of that for the state. And what does it say about the state? What does it say about if everybody starts moving? And people are moving, and people are building, like, when you know this because you're on Nostr, but I'm blown away by the developers there. I'm blown away by the people there, the interactions there, the type of people that are actually using their intention, their energy to be able to build a better world. And that's tied to it, and that's tied to so it provides a digital ID, provides through this that report. It will be in time your digital ID.
Wow.
And what's happening on Fedi, on Fedimint, or eCash, and different things on top of that. These are turning into different networks that are completely outside of this system, and not able to be attacked, just like Bitcoin, because they're all nodes. They're all you and I, and there's so many of them exploding everywhere, that they're not able to be attacked. by the existing system. And I've often said, because in ego death, and we're financing some of this, and we're when I say financing, we're betting on entrepreneurs building an abundant future. And the some of these people are so beautiful, and how and who they are and their dreams and what this looks like. So we see it really early. We see some of the stuff really early. Now, that puts potentially from the state, if you ask the same question we asked before, then that puts risk onto me. But well, why you're moving this out, and all of this abundance is created, somebody's losing. The state control of that whole system is losing as the abundance flows, which is predicated on control and extraction. Where ours is predicated on abundant truth, hope, and abundance. So if the state comes after me or one of our companies, which could happen, wouldn't that be that would be hard to come after, right? Because you would have to explain to, like, through the court system, why. You would essentially see, like, there's a part of me that wants that stage, right? Because you would have to explain why. You'd have to explain why it is people can't be free.
It's crazy because they don't see it. I can imagine that if people at the top saw the potential of Bitcoin, and even for them, because one of the things I realized in the spiritual space, you have a lot of gurus who are selling all these courses to make more money, and, like, money abundance, make more money. Once you understand this new system, you really see, like, abundance and money creates scarcity everywhere else. I profoundly understand your statement because of being in that group of people who really see abundance and money being a very positive thing. But when you really dig on it, it's like, why are these gurus teaching these things? Why do they have all these courses? Why do they have, like, multi-$1,000, like, upsells and whatever? It's because they are in the same system as us. They also have to deal with inflation, and it's different. They have different expenses and different things going on. But in the end, the reason that they're charging money to show you how to make money is because they need money, because we live in an inflationary system. But, like, take that all apart, and we all live a better life, like them included, the politicians, like government. We all benefit from this system.
Yeah, and then but we know throughout human history that we know from game theory, if people can cheat, they will. So you need rules of a system that imposes this, the imposition of these new rules in service of all of us, and that's what Bitcoin is, right? It imposes these rules on society, and people try to cheat it all the time, right? If you could say all of the other cryptocurrencies, to try to, all of the different ideas and everything else to try to sell my token, FTX, all of these things. We know from a long line of history, if people could cheat and get away with it, they'll win. But trying to cheat an honest network like Bitcoin, you're the one that gets exposed all the time. So it's just a beautiful thing that the best thing in Bitcoin is to act honestly, because it's in service of you and everyone else, and that expands. Now, we're really early in that. There's going to be lots of stuff coming at this, but through 15 years, the best thing you could do in Bitcoin is to be an honest actor, and all of the dishonest actors keep getting destroyed.
I wanted to touch on a pushback against the truth that prices fall to the marginal cost of production in a true free market, right? One of the arguments I often hear is that luxury real estate, unique items, fine art, these things don't fall to the marginal cost of production. And then sometimes people throw at me, that's a Marxist viewpoint. Like, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So in luxury real estate, then, and it's determine luxury real estate, but I'm going to, that would fall to its utility value. So today real estate has a monetary premium in it, and people are using kind of what we're talking about to defend the monetary premium. So today, in a house, because if you store your money in a bank, you lose money really fast, and at least a house will match the printing of money. Generally, it actually doesn't match because you have all the expenses and taxes on a house and everything else, and the maintenance of a house. Because if you, but generally, it'll match the printing rate of it. So it doesn't get. It doesn't have the same debasement as your money. So what would people do is they would use that as, instead of money, they would put their money in a house, and it would attach a monetary premium. And as more people did that, and more big money did that, because they were facing the same thing in the same system, houses, which used to be utility value, where you could raise a family and you have a great neighborhood, turn into a monetary premium and chase us away. And people are measuring that as a house example. And but the utility value too, because of all the technology and and all of the materials in the house, are also falling to the marginal cost of production. Like if you think about what mining looks like today, all automated, and what it'll look like tomorrow, or lumber, or anything else, we solve problems as humanity. So where there's scarcity, where scarcity exists and prices go up, we create abundance. We create different ways to be able to solve that, and constantly, so all of the materials inside the house are also falling, right? And so all of the distribution channels and all that is also falling, and it falls to utility value. Now I'm going to connect to that to was it Bondo in Malawi I went to, and I went to this spot. I make $1 a day. It is stunningly beautiful, like stunningly beautiful. Mountains, lakes, some of the most amazing beauty I've seen. Houses are effectively free, right? The land is effectively free. Nobody, how many coastlines, how many different areas are like that? And it's everywhere, right? It's and now and I understand that before, when you had centralized shipping lanes, when you had centralized energy, when you had then cities grew faster because there are more people in cities, more ideas, especially in free markets. So look at cities that are more free market. There's more opportunity, so people move to the city, and that creates more. And it used to create more centralization around energy, because you needed peak energy for the peak part of the city. So you ended up centralizing energy systems, which had downstream consequences on energy, and a lot of times that energy would go negative at some times during the day. So you had to make bad economic choices on energy. But same thing, then you centralize mass track farming to be able to feed the cities, and you have all of these almost extractive systems owned by corporations on top of these things that try to make costs lower and lower inside that area. Well, today, through Bitcoin, you can create energy abundance anywhere in the world. And from the energy abundance that you're not then not using on Bitcoin, the same thing is happening in what I said in that village in Bondo. Now you have electricity. Now you have electricity because you're using Bitcoin to create that. And if there's a higher form of electricity, to be able to pay more for electricity, you pay more for electricity when you need it. So that decentralizes energy, and that means it decentralizes cities. And now you could use Starlink to be connected anywhere in the world, and you don't need the same cost or utility, or utility value of your home. So those homes that people have priced at a monetary premium, when you look at the new system that's emerging all around the world, where the utility value it falls to the utility value, at least in Bitcoin, and how much land and how much opportunity that this transition is going to be a staggering transition, and it just keeps on happening as it decentralizes more and people try to create more value, and they will create all sorts of beautiful cities that have more value than what was there before.
What does abundance mean to you?
So I want to keep this away from the utopian view. I'd like it to stay within the free market view of. I just think we are programmed to solve problems. We're programmed to be curious. I'm not being programmed. We think about. If there's something as a burning need in a free market, what ends up happening is the scarcity attracts higher margin, right? The higher margin attracts entrepreneurs to be able to attack that with different ideas to provide more value, which produces abundance. I don't think that process will ever really go away. I think that process of the free market is the thing that, or maybe we have never found a better way, other than the free market, to inspire that in billions of people in service of other people, because it's a force for good. Because your work has to provide more value than what came before, or it fails. So it's an incentive. So what I mean by abundance is that path allows abundance because you utilize all of our minds, all of our creative genius, all of everyone's ideas to be able to create that abundance. So when I say 8 billion people in service of 8 billion people, that's what I describe.
It's so powerful. And then you add like the exponential progress of technology on top of that. And I don't know, I guess some people said to me, what are we going to do once we don't have jobs anymore? Because AI enslaves us in the fiat system, but it frees us in Bitcoin. And so what do you do when what do you do with your free time right now? What do you do? What do you like to do on vacation? What do you like to, you probably create things, you probably make art, you probably do I don't know, you're like maybe an entrepreneur. What would you do for free if money weren't a problem? And I feel like, I know this might be hard to relate to right now for some people, but I have a feeling that Bitcoin is taking us into a world beyond money. Like Bitcoin, I see it as a transition system into a world where we're just going to be exchanging value and not expecting anything in return. I know that sounds super utopic, but that's kind of how I see things where they're going. Because if prices fall to the marginal cost of production and Bitcoin imposes that true free market, eventually we're going to stop using Bitcoin. We're going to start using sats, which is kind of already starting. And then eventually, once sats aren't used anymore, what happens?
Yeah. So, and again, these are hard concepts to understand from the existing system, because when somebody's asking, it's really hard for people to hold two coherent thoughts independently in their head and then challenge what happens in the existing system and the new system. So that's would be really difficult. So what ends up happening then is they blur them. When they take, how do I make enough money to be able to pay for things in this new system? And they'll think all the prices are the same. But the prices aren't the same at all. Everything has dropped so profoundly that things turn into the air you're breathing right now. And so you have to ask somebody, why don't you pay for air? It's the most valuable thing in your life. Why don't you pay for it? And well, and you'll hear, you'll kind of you see that, well, that seems crazy. Why would you pay for air? It's abundant. Exactly. That's the point, right? There is no so entrepreneurs can't make money from air because it's abundant unless you're in space or underwater or in a hospital where you need extra oxygen. And even those versions, because they're such small markets, there's just not a lot of money in oxygen, right? So there's not a lot huge business monopolies of oxygen. There is no monopoly, right? The monopoly is you. You have it. It's all free, and that's what everything looks like. Everything looks like that in time in this in this. So why don't you pay for air?
I love it. Actually, speaking of all this, I've been consciously working towards trying to get into that world now. I'm like, you know what? If we create the world that we live in, then I want to embody that. And this is a process, okay? I'm not perfect. But I just started with demonetizing my videos. There's no more ads on my videos. And I felt like that was such a contribution to the fiat system in a way. It's like all this advertising, stealing people's attention in the middle of such a deep conversation. I'm like, no way. So done. I've never had sponsors. I have no plans on having any ever.
But again, you could on the way there. So I would argue, as you move forward, and you're doing a lot here, you don't have to be a martyr to do it, right? You provide value, and if you're providing value, and somebody wants to see in you the value and sponsor your show, and it doesn't take away from that experience, then I think you should do that, because you would take that money and you would create more value. You might hire more people to help you expand, touch more people. So that free market force of what that looks like. I love that you decided to take out the ads that stop in the middle and everything else. But if there is a different way to solve that allows you to drive this message further, then do that.
I debated a lot about giving my book away for free. And I've decided that I think I still need a revenue stream. We do live in a 3D world I have rent, okay? So I was like, I do need some kind of form of income. I feel like that makes sense. And that's kind of where I am right now.
You can do on your book, because your book's going to be, I think your book's going to do really well. Do your version, and I think the pricing is important, that you should do that. And then also sell it in Bitcoin to be able to move there. But you'll get a whole bunch of people that'll want to publish it in different languages, and in some of those languages, just because I'd let a whole bunch of mine just be free in a whole bunch of different languages, so it could travel more. So I would. Yeah, we can talk about that separately, but that's I think it's a good framework for what you're doing.
Awesome. I was wondering, because you do a lot of podcasts for free, you give away a lot of your time, even helping me with the book. I was wondering, how has doing things without any expectation of anything in return, how has that brought you abundance?
It's the people I meet. Like you heard me in the where I got emotional in the Bitcoin Madeira speech, but the emotion was driven from people think it's me, right? Giving them something, when I think of all the people who touched me to give me something. So it's even now, I can't think about this exchange without getting to all of the people, some of them that I didn't even know. I couldn't remember their name right now, but all of these different people that have touched me in a way that provide this life that I just see, like it's so beautiful.
Objectively, I believe that humanity is poorer now since the Great Depression. And I know that sounds a little weird to say, but everyone thinks of that dollar bill and the monetary deflation, like now it's not worth anything. But there's something else. There's what we've missed out on. like ever since we've had imposed that fiat system, I see it like a timeline split. It's like, let's imagine that there was a world where we actually distributed all that abundance to everyone, and there's a world where we live in fiat. Well, we're in the fiat timeline, and like we've been robbed of all the potential of humanity. And I mean, this is historical. It could have gone back before the 30s, but I just kind of see it like that right now with the Great Depression. It's like, what have we missed out on?
So now, if you look at some of the data that people say, okay, in large parts of the world have lifted out of poverty, infant mortality, life expectancy. A lot of these things are longer now. But you that's a perfect point. What they're missing is the counterfactual of what it would look like in a different system. So they've essentially from that system, what you're doing is your technology is moving so fast, and you're extracting most of that value to very few people. And even against that, it looks like for large parts of the world that have been lifted out of poverty, it's still been positive. But what it would look like under a hard money system, we can't even imagine. We can't even imagine. Well, I can imagine. I'm sure you could imagine.
Yeah, that's the thing. In the book, I really invite people to co-create this, Jeff, because I feel like, okay, I know I don't want to complain about this, but like I bought Eckhart Tolle's book called The New Earth, and literally there's like 3 pages on the New Earth. The whole book is about ego consciousness, and I'm like, I want to know more about the New Earth. So I'm like, hey, if anyone's hearing this and they hear like 8 billion people serving 8 billion people, and that lights something up inside of them, and they can imagine that world, I just want to invite people to like bring that into the world, write about it, write poetry, I don't know, like make an art piece, create a video, do something to bring that world in. And because I feel like we're focusing still too much on the darkness, and I just want to be surrounded by people who are like, okay, let's usher in the light. Like that's what I want to do right now.
You are already one of those people. You can see it in the last year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Like you know your journey, right? You know what this is, and you can see it getting better and better and better. Andre from like Madeira, that was a call, right, from somebody who wanted to publish my book that then turned into the Madeira conference, and now Gigi's living there, and Pablo's living there, and so many people are kind of creating this new economy that are going through all people just creating value for other people. It's beautiful. And when you're inside that system and you're feeling that resonancy, you just want to do more.
I'd love to touch on singularity. How do you define it?
Similar to Ray Kurzweil, but in fact, that I think that's what takes us. The singularity is really us, and that all we are all connected. And so he talks about the singularity in a matter of machines. Machines being able to do anything a human can do, and if you kind of from there, what do humans do, right? Or the merging of machines and humans. What do humans do? I actually don't, and I've spent a lot of time on this specific topic. It's tied to quantum. I don't know if a machine can. I don't think it can be us. I think it is. I think it can see patterns, and those it can see patterns we can't see, because it has more data from us to be able to see those patterns. But I think we're the supercomputer. I think we individually, all those ideas, and the machines are tools that we use to bring more abundance. And so the interaction of what we're doing right now, these ideas that spread and are different than what we've seen before, are the things that create the future that we see. And I think we'll always be integral to that. We won't need to do the same amount of work because we create the tools that do the work for us, just like we don't build roads with shovels anymore. right? Just because we build tools to be able to solve that problem, and that's all. And so the instead of being fearful of this technology that is created by us, or allowing that technology to be centralized by others, because we're living in a control system that uses that fear to be able to create the control. If we just allowed this to flow to us through the natural forces of the free market, these are just tools. They're really powerful tools. And then when you combine robots that can use those tools to be able to produce even more and more abundance, then they're just really powerful tools that free us.
Okay, I don't know. I guess my understanding of singularity was like the implanting in humans of that technology, like taking that advanced technology and putting it in ourselves.
Yeah, that's one idea, and it could look like that. But when I say could look like that, it will look like that too. And the question today, knee replacement surgery, hip replacement surgery, we are already merging with machines in some ways, and so it's hard. It's hard to know exactly. It's hard to know exactly kind of which thread of this looks like. But it will. I would imagine in the future too. Like you might think the exact same way you think today, right? But they walk around with an iPhone. You're practically tethered anyways. And so, yeah, there will be more integration. There's likely to be more integration, and then the blending. Who are you? But who are you now, right?
Well, that's the question, right? Because I feel like humanity has not been given the chance to experience humanity. Like we have not been given the chance to experience what it means to be human on a deep level. And I know this is far out there, but I'm just going to talk about it. The ascended masters who came to Earth, like Yeshua, I don't know, all of them, Moses, Mother Mary. There's like the list goes on and on. I mostly gave Christian examples. Who else? Buddha. Like they had a message of empowerment. They were like, everything I can do, you can do and more, is pretty much the message of without all the religious dogma and without all of the stuff on top. That's kind of the message. So if humans, I feel like humans have unlimited potential that we've never tapped into. And I feel like implanting ourselves with technology and their synthetics is blocking our ability to really connect and be that middle ground between like the human experience of physicality and the integration with the soul. I don't know. Maybe this is a little too esoteric, but I'm curious.
It isn't. But will people do it in the free market because they think it'll give them an advantage? Yes. So that will. Some people will. Not everyone will. And some people. So then go. Let's ask. Question I asked to Gigi a long time ago. Did the Buddha need Bitcoin?
Mm.
And the answer is no, right?
Yeah.
And so this was always available in all of us. Yeah. It's always been there. Now, what would those, if you say ascendant masters, or religion or everything else, what would, if somebody spoke the truth that it was all within you, and you looked at them from the observer position, that they gave it to you, right? How would religion get formed? It would get formed through the same thing, because the observer would think it was the person, right? Just like we kind of do hero worshiping today, instead of this is all of us. It's a journey with all of us. We assign more to the person who brought it to us, and it was them, right? And so when you say, I do agree with you, it's always been within us, but very few are capable of seeing it.
But that's the thing with your question about Bitcoin. Did the Buddha need Bitcoin? No, but maybe he had a privileged position. I'm just saying, that was his life path. That's what he came here for. He was here for that mission. Joshua, same thing. And all the Kali, all of them, all the ascended masters. So But with Bitcoin, we free our time from the fiat 9 to 5 oppression, scarcity, all of that. And we have more time to spend. This is what I learned from you and with your talk with Breedlove over a year ago. We have more time to focus on ascension. We have more time to focus on what does it mean to be human? Like, what are we capable of? That love and connection beyond money. And that's incredibly powerful when you tie that in with 8 billion people serving 8 billion people and technology exponentially progressing to provide abundance. Like, I don't know how you can't be excited and hopeful about that world.
So that's exactly where. So what is a computer? It's just so we're a biological computer, right? That's how your brain is constantly trying to understand or relearn some of the stuff that has always been here from some of the sages and masters through. It's always been here, and uh, so you're some people are able to connect into that and see that it's always there, so we're all going through that path together. And if you so enlightenment or ascension or to the different words of connecting into that same energy. But that's kind of why I say we're the supercomputer.
What do you mean by supercomputer?
So when people are talking about AI being the supercomputer, and then we need to connect to the AI to be able to access that, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I believe we are the supercomputer and we create tools.
Okay.
So I believe that the supercomputer. So when I say the supercomputer, it's always been the fabric of the universe, and we're part of the fabric of the universe, and we're seeing these insights and learning foundational truths that allow us to escape some of the previous prisons we belonged in. We were in that we created for ourselves.
This is where I think the fundamental difference with Singularity or machines with AI, all that, and us is it's our biology. It's our ability to connect with what's in the space around us that cannot be perceived by our 5 senses, like using our 6th sense. I don't know, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all of those. And then if you get into the ascended masters, which is much further down the line, but walking on water, being able to manifest something physically in the physical plane. I don't know, the ability to heal someone. These are quantum things. And if we're quantum and the universe is quantum, then we can do those things. I don't know if I feel like implanting ourselves with technology hinders that. And I don't think the machines would be capable of that. That's kind of where I am right now anyway.
I tend to agree with it. That's kind of why I keep saying that we're the supercomputer. We're connected completely into that, at least for now. I don't see a path that that computers take any of that away. They're just tools. AI is just a tool. It's a really powerful, right? So it's a tool that we create that makes us more efficient.
Okay, in a fiat paradigm, it takes it away.
Yes. So in a fiat paradigm, because all of the abundance created from it has to be concentrated to use against you, and through that and through that process, that you'll believe that the only way to gain an edge into that is to connect to that, to be at the highest level while it's being taken away from you. And what will be used there is fear of, let's use a different, instead of AI, because it's, I think, complicated. Let's use the free market force on biological engineering, right? And so we could so the same thing could create freedom from disease, or in time, or massive diseases that annihilate populations. So let's use this and remember, through CRISPR and gene editing and everything else, this technology is moving and it's going to be free. From a system of control, that is massive fear, because everybody could do this and create, and so you could have somebody in the backyard in Pakistan create something that kills a massive number of people. From a system of abundance, why would that person ever do that? So you have a system today that is creating the scarcity in people, that they're so outraged that they're going to use these tools to create chaos that then is going to give the system more control to be able to create more chaos. And you have a different system where you have all of the abundance flowing to people at the same time. And those two systems are they cannot coexist in the long term. One subsumes the other. The system of abundance or the system of scarcity. The system of scarcity is the fiat system. And the system of abundance is taking that over. But that fight and which side you're giving more energy into is a very real, and people are going to get confused by it all the time. A lot of people are going to be confused by it.
It's almost like we have this technology that can free us or completely enslave us in these two paradigms. And I'm just thinking of this from like a super high level, like alien perspective. This is the perfect time for Bitcoin. Like we need that transition into a world where this doesn't exist anymore. Like we transition ourselves out of the fiat paradigm into a higher level of consciousness where we know we are all one on a deep soul level. Like, I mean, no, not intellectually, like knowing it.
That's why it was discovered at this time. If you look in it, because it couldn't have been discovered without all of the previous work in technology and computers and cryptography and all of the previous work that we just live on top of all of the previous work. And at a time that you needed it, it was discovered to be able to take us on a different path in the future. So all of the things to get to this point probably were required. We could argue why it wasn't the best, but there was no other way. People tried before on gold, they tried before, and they worked for some time, and all of those things got us to this point, and all of the technology and all of the ideas that got to this point that allow us to step off this crazy broken wheel and move to abundance and move to truth, hope, abundance.
What a time to be alive, Jeff. Like
crazy. It's crazy. To like I pinch myself that we're getting to we're what a time to be alive and watch this play out and be a part of it.
And be part of it. Yeah. I don't know. This morning I had a realization. I went to Noster and I noticed that it was full of positivity and it was full of deep thinking and deep thoughts and truth seeking. And I was like, oh my God, I finally refined my algorithm to be exactly what I want to see.
Because the algorithm is you instead of somebody trying to monetize you.
Exactly. It's beautiful. Oh man. Okay, we don't have too much time left, but let's talk about time because I have just like short questions about this. Do you believe time is linear, circular, or everything is now? Or maybe all of those are true? I don't know, or something else. I'm just curious.
Yeah, maybe all of those are true depending on your reference point. I think a lot about it is the only moment that matters is right now, and the now keeps moving forward into the future. And we carry so how does that practically? What does that practically mean? Practically, I think a lot of people live with guilt or shame or something else out of something they made a decision in the past, and they carry it into all of their future decisions, and that keeps on playing forward. Some people are all about one day in the future. Everything's going to be great. Well, I keep that. But if you just take a decision and say, I made my best decision at the time with the knowledge previously, and then the right now is the only moment that matters, and I'm going to make my best decision right now. It might not be perfectly right because I don't know everything. But I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be all in with the time I'm spending right now. And then in retrospect, learn from those things. You're kind of always in the moment. You're not taking from somebody, you're not taking from something else, and all the baggage that you're carrying with you, and you're able to make kind of better decisions. And to me, so it's an evolution for me too. The whole thing. How do I turn it? I try to stay as much as possible in the present with people that I'm with in that moment, knowing that I fully chose all of those that time.
That's such a beautiful gift. I feel like some of the best conversations I've had, Jeff, were silence. Like there was nothing said with words because there was nothing to say with words. Like it's just presence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can feel that when somebody else is in that energy too. You can feel it.
Has your perception or experience of time changed since you've been living more in Bitcoin?
I don't. So I've learned so much on the path on Bitcoin, but I don't know if that's changed so much. I think that's that part. That part was and even in Bitcoin, I don't know if Bitcoin gave me abundance, and that. So when I think about abundance, primarily I think through the relationships and deep connections that I have with people I care about immensely, and I'm fortunate in my life to have that, like as a primary, and so Bitcoin didn't give me more of that. I'm going to qualify that. I found a whole bunch of other people. My wife said this because I used to go to Bitcoin conferences alone, and then she used to come, and she couldn't understand why I liked it so much. And then she said to me afterwards, she goes, "I get it. These are your people. These are just like all of our other friends. They like these. I get it."
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Okay, I definitely want to talk to you about this before we close off. My question for you is: do you believe we have a soul plan?
Don't know. I haven't given that enough thought. I don't think so. I tend to. If I was going to answer right now, I'd say no.
Okay.
And the reason I'd say that is, I think everyone can learn and take whatever path they want, have agency into whatever they determine that looks like. And so I don't know. So I don't know. That doesn't. Believing we have a soul plan and your life is predetermined goes against what I would believe in. It's all our choice. It's all we need to see it. We need to understand that it's all of our choice. But it's one of those things I don't know the answer.
Okay, yeah, of course. I don't know either. Here's my perception. It's my thoughts. It's like I think we do have a soul plan. I think the big lines were written out, but like, am I going to have ketchup or mustard? Not. It's insignificant. So that's like free will choice. Doesn't really matter. But there's like these big things that happen in our lives that are bound to happen. I feel like you stepped into your soul mission, and this is my feeling, when you wrote your book, because you didn't want to do it. You said you didn't want to write your book, but it was stronger than you. It was something that you felt like you had to do it. And I feel like that's part of the soul mission. It's like stepping into that power, sharing this message, and having such a massive influence. I mean, you've had a massive influence on me. Like it's changed my life. So I just feel like that is stepping into your soul mission. What would you say to 2019, Jeff? Like if you could go back?
Probably the same thing I did. Like I knew I had to write that book. And so it was a process. But the truth is, I knew for a long time before that, and it was a process to get to do it. Jack Madison, a good friend of mine that I met through Bitcoin, tying into your question, said to me, because I hadn't read a lot of the books on kind of sages or spirituality. Even today, I have now more. But he said to me on a hike one day, because he brought one into my view, and he said, and it sounded, I loved it. And he said, "You've always known it." Right. So
Clearly, which book was it? I'm just curious. Do you know?
I can't remember the exact book. I'll get it to you so you can put it in the show notes.
Okay, yeah. I'm just curious to know which one. Okay. What do you feel called to do next?
This. I'll probably write another book, but my first, I want to help you with yours. I think your book is going to be really exciting, and I'd love for a lot of people to read it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Where can people find you, Jeff?
jeffbooth.ca, and I keep reinforcing that just so that people don't get scammed. Anything, I will never ask for money. And so if somebody's asking you for money or trying to DM you, it's not me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you's not enough, but thank you.
No problem. This is awesome.